back. I had to start it off. So, everybody, I have Eric Leech here with me. This is AKA Pork Chop. I have to do a little bit of transparency for people that don't know. You and I fished together for 9.5 years.
That is correct.
It was the longest 9.5 years of my life.
Felt like an eternity.
It sure was an eternity. Well, there's going to be a bunch of things I want to talk about today, but the first thing we're going to talk about that I asked you to talk about is your IGFA world record.
Yeah.
You have... Well, don't let me tell the story. You tell the story.
I have the Dog Tooth Tuna on 20-pound test. Caught in Yap in Micronesia.
Uh-huh.
It was actually just Jody Whitworth and I on the boat that day. Jody was the captain. I was one of the mates. Jason Tiny Walcott was the other mate, but he was on mothership duties that day.
Okay.
So we'd been trolling around that day. We caught and killed a blue marlin. That day, just the two of us. We caught a couple dolphin. And every day, it's South Pacific. Actually, that's North Pacific, but it's island with an atoll around it. Big drop-offs. And every time we'd tack into the reef, we'd mark all this stuff right on the edge. Man, before we got to go in, we got to drop something, see what this is all about, see what these things are. They're weird snappers, groupers, jacks, whatever. So I had a rod with like a 2-ounce, just a deep jig, lead-headed jig. And we came up on the edge and started dropping down. And Jody goes, we blew off too fast. You're never going to hit the bottom. So I don't know how much line I let out. It was a decent amount, probably 200 feet or so. And started just jigging it back up. And about halfway up, it got hammered. And I believe it was about a 40-minute fight. And actually threw it. He goes, hey, if you want to take over or something like that, don't kill your back or something, I'll take over. They said, the way this is fighting and where we are, this could be a world record. Who knows? Not even thinking it was a world record. And sure enough, it came up and we put it in the boat. And we caught our first one ever a couple days before trolling. Ate a ruckus marlin lure. And it was 70 pounds, on the scale. We looked at this, we're like, this one's almost twice the size. So we called the mothership on our way home and said, hey, what's the world record on 20 pounds? Because all our rods always had IGFA testing line, and our leader everything was IGFA in accordance. And sure enough, they said, it's 110 pounds or 111. I said, well, make sure you got the scale charged up. We think we got one. And went in and weighed it on land, and sure enough, is 137.4 pounds.
Now, when exactly was this?
I believe it was February 2nd in the year 2000.
Year 2000.
We
you realize that
was the Y2K.
That you do realize that's 20 years ago.
Yep.
Back when you were young.
Yep.
You were only half the man you are now. So, while you were fighting this fish, at any point did you cry? Because I know people are going to ask this question.
No, I didn't.
You sure?
I do get asked that one a lot.
Yeah, listen, I know your mom. She told me you were a crier. So, you guys went ahead, you weighed this fish, you beat the world record by 17 pounds. Then what did you do?
Well, that was actually the first record I'd ever submitted. So I had, just like anybody, looked it up in the book. Had to go back and measure the gaff that we used and show that it was less than 8 feet. And give the dimensions of the rod and the reel. And, they want the butt length, the tip length, all this other stuff. Gave it all. And back then it wasn't digital pictures. So it was regular film. We took it. Of course, we're in Fiji and, Micronesia, going to Vanuatu and stuff. So you don't totally trust all those film developing places there. So we filled out the application, and I put like 3 or 4 rolls of film, of the fish, of it in the boat, without ever developing it. And at the time, my dad was the president of IGFA.
Whoa, nepotism.
Yeah. So I call him up I talked to him on the phone, and I sent it off. And months go by. I've traveled. Now we've been to a couple other countries at this point. We've been to Palau, and we're in Vanuatu. I think we're almost in Tahiti now. Well, I haven't heard anything about my record. I think it's always, they try and do it in a couple months. And, so I checked on the pictures, that the pictures came out, and they had said yes. And I hadn't heard another word, and I said, hey, one day I go, what's going on with my record? He's like, oh, it hasn't come across my desk yet. I said, well, as a favor, could you maybe check on this progress here? Like, let's get this thing moving. I thought I had somewhat of a connection. And, it still took like another 2 weeks, and finally it went through all the correct avenues, and it was approved, and I had my record.
So you said you caught it down in Vanuatu.
I'm sorry, Yap in Micronesia.
In Yap. But you've mentioned Vanuatu and all these other places. What were you doing down there?
I worked on a mothership operation, the French look.
Okay.
And so we had a 165-foot mothership, and then we had a 41-foot GNS that rode piggyback. So the big distances, 3,000, 4,000, 6,000 miles. The little boat's on the back deck. You get to where you're fishing. You drop it off the back like a trailer, and you're ready to go fishing. So we did that. We kind of, that big trip, I'll let you know, we started in Panama, went to Hawaii. Little side note, we landed in Hawaii on my 21st birthday, which was nice.
Which was 20 years ago, so now we know how old you are.
Yeah. And then we went to Ogasawara, which is just south of Japan. We went up to Japan, Okinawa, then we went to Yap, then we went to Palau, and then Vanuatu, then Fiji, then Tahiti, then Costa Rica, and then back to Panama.
So from Tahiti all the way to Costa Rica?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
Non-stop. I want to say that was 23 days.
Okay.
But the kicker was the last 8 days, the steering in the bridge went out. So we had to take turns on our 4 hours watch on the mothership. 2 hours we sat between the generators, actually facing aft with headphones on. And the people in the bridge would tell you a little to the left or a little to the right, which was opposite. And so you sat down in the engine room for 4 hours a day, making the last little bit.
For 8 days.
Yeah.
For 8 days. So this tour you did around the entire Pacific, how long were you guys doing it?
It was a year and a half.
Okay. And what is besides your world record, what is your best memory?
I don't know. I've got quite a few good memories from the South Pacific. In Vanuatu, the fishing was really good. We had a couple real big marlin there. But there's a couple of banks offshore, and the wahoos were solid. And I mean, we were trying to get pictures for cameras. We'd be like, all right, we're coming up on the edge, get ready. And everybody would hold a camera up. And just 4 marlin lures. I mean, they'd skyrocket out of the water, and this and that. And one of them that was pretty vivid was I was actually driving. Jody was in the cockpit, and this wahoo ate a short, and it was as high eye level with me on the bridge, and I could literally see it chomping its mouth with the lure sitting sideways in its mouth, double hook marlin lure. And I'm like, oh man, it's a 50, 60-pound wahoo. I'm like, when this thing hits the water, man, it's going to be pretty cool. Hits the water. I look back, nothing happens, doesn't come out of the clip. Lure sitting there bubbling like normal. I'm like, what? But check it. There is one strand of skirt left, but it never got hooked. It chomped on that thing, cut all the skirts off. Never, 2 hooks laying in its mouth, never got hooked. That's still pretty vivid. And then another time we were fishing off some little island off of Vanuatu, and we kept seeing this flash coming off this island. We're like, man, that's kind of weird. And so we went in and we tapped in a little closer. You could see some people, and you're like, obviously we're being signaled, like it's a signal mirror. So we ease on in there, very skeptical, and these people come out and they roughly interpret that their chief needs to get to the mainland of the island of Vanuatu. And so we ended up taking him and 2 other people, literally loaded them up. And I mean, these are villagers, no power, no nothing, living on this little island. Literally have a chief, and I don't know, probably a witch doctor, but as they're pulling up, they tossed in a machete, and it sticks right in the teak. And right in the teak cockpit. And we took them on in. We were a little skeptical. Tiny had every fillet knife out, show that we were stacked too, and maybe even the flare guns. But we brought them back, and I guess he got his business. Now to this day, we don't know if he ever went back to his island or not.
So let's just rewind 1 second, because you and I know Tiny. But could you just explain why everybody calls Tiny Tiny?
Probably like most people that are nicknamed Tiny. He is the opposite of Tiny. He's a big guy. He's been through a lot. On a side note, he's actually the only living survivor of a terrorist attack on a U.S. vessel in U.S. waters or something to that effect. Yeah, and so he's always got his guard up when the situation isn't normal on the boat. But he's a great guy to have in your corner and a really good fisherman.
He's a great fisherman. Today on social media, I'm watching him and Andy Moyes tease me. I posted a picture of me having to climb up on the covering board to reach the leader. So, listen, I'm vertically challenged, but if anybody understands that, you do.
That's right.
Now, before we continue any further, for those of you that are going to watch this on video, you see that you're wearing a White Castle burger shirt. When was the last time you had a White Castle burger?
To be honest, it was probably when we were working together on the Reel Titan, we would buy them frozen.
Okay.
Since I've never been up to the Northeast fishing, except last summer, we don't have White Castle down here in the Caribbean. So I don't know if I've ever even eaten one, except for the frozen ones we would get on the Reel Titan.
And that, if I remember correctly, that was the staple breakfast.
Yes.
That was something that was very, very normal. So let's go back, because there's not very many people that I can interview that I can say that I've fished with for 9.5 years and shared a bunk room with also. So I was there when you met your wife. I was there when you married your wife. I was there when your kids were born, and some of the best practical jokes ever imagined. Not only between you and I, but also between us and everybody else on the dock.
Oh yeah.
So actually, I had Terry Morrison on my live feed the other day. Tell everybody about the time you cut the Greek flag down. So that we definitely pissed off some people on that one.
Yeah,
We
I
pissed,
I always enjoyed our time in Panama with the giant bugs every morning. You'd wake up and giant bugs are dead in the cockpit. We toss them in the freezer and wait for somebody to fall asleep. Usually Uncle Harry. And taping them and having them swing into people's faces and swing across the salon into dinner pools. I always enjoyed those a lot.
I remember the time we got that giant grasshopper and tied it up above Eddie, and we had the fishing string running through the whole salon just so we could pull it.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely some good times. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Panama was always a really cool place. Piñas Bay is one of those really magical places because there's really no outside influence.
Nope.
There's no roads coming in. You can either come in by boat or by plane. That's it.
Yep.
You make your own electricity. You make your own water. So it's pretty magical, and the fishing can be pretty awesome. Actually, that reminds me, my biggest blue marlin, and I can't say if it's your biggest blue marlin. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
I know it already.
That one should have gone for a ride. That one should have gone for a ride. So there we were, trolling around pods of yellowfin tuna all morning long, and a big blue marlin shows up on the left bridge teaser. We tease it in. Jim throws the pitch bait in the water, which was just a standard tingum that we always use, which was a soft head chugger. And he's trying to get that thing to pop to get the blue marlin as he turned around to be able to see it. And his rod tip was getting a little tangled up with the short line.
With the short, yes.
So what did you decide to do?
I decided to pick up the short and pull it away so it wouldn't hit his rod anymore. But it was a little early in the morning. Maybe I wasn't quite thinking straight. But that blue marlin ate that short going away while it was in my hands. And Jim was a by-the-book guy for records or anything. And Jim turned around all excited to grab the rod and to catch it, and it was in my hands. And, I mean, you would have thought somebody just shot his mom. He looked at me and was like, well, and all I got was, you catch it now. And he walked off. I felt about that big, and I'm short enough as it is. And then I felt about that big. And we pawned it off on Uncle Harry. Harry, tell him that Harry got to catch it. And I even think I was up on the leader, too.
You double dipped because you were up on the leader. We got the release really quick in like 10 or 12 minutes. That fish jumped underneath the left rigger or the starboard side rigger, and we were all in complete awe from the size of this fish. We proceeded to fight it, another hour and a half or so?
Yeah.
And then I remember Joe went up to the tower to get some videos of it because you and I wanted to put the Maxim magazine cover shot. And that fish looked like it was two 55-gallon drums when it was about 6 feet under the water.
Yeah.
That thing was massive. But you kicked its ass on the wire.
That's right.
You got her up right there alongside on a 50. And we got some great pictures. We released her. And then we all kind of looked and asked, how big do you think that was? And that's when Jim said, if I would have caught it, it'd be going for a ride.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah. that was huge.
That was a bit. I would have liked to known the actual weight. And I'm a firm believer in if I don't weigh it, I don't say it.
Yep, I agree with that 100%.
You had a very close moment like that in Australia once, didn't you?
Yep, we had one. It was actually, I was down on the boat. The captain wasn't there. And two American guys walked up, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and said, "Hey, can we go fishing?" So let me call the captain. We're not booked today. Usually we start a little earlier than this, but so I call the captain up. He says, "Sure, give me a little bit. I got to go get some bait from our storage unit." So we tell the guys go get an early lunch. I went, fueled up the boat. The captain came down with bait, and we went out, and we ended up catching some live bait, which our live bait was a 30-pound yellowfin tuna. And then we had a 20-pound scaly mackerel on the other side, just fishing two rods down there. And the live baits are so big, you can't put them in a clip. So you literally have to sit there and hold it in your hand. And I'm like, oh, it's getting nervous. Oh, he's been eating. I let it go. We were using circle hooks at that time. And so you kind of put the angler in the chair. You haven't come tight on it, letting the fish swallow it with the circle hook. This was like the first year they were using circle hooks in Australia. And I get him clipped into the chair, I go over to the other rod, start reeling as fast as I can. I'm about halfway in, the thing's skipping. Giant marlin comes up and eats that one too. 0 drop back, come tight on the other rod. It's the same fish. And pretty short battle. We didn't really fight them on the second rod. We just kind of kept the drag backed off and kind of wound up slack as we went, let the other guy do the main part of it. And came up, and both hooks, there's one on either side of his mouth, right in the corner of his mouth, just like they should. One had a minute drop back, and the other one had 0 seconds of a drop back. And we get it up, and I've got it on the leader. It's big. And I'm beyond the captain. I think it's big enough. We got to kill it. And he's like, I don't know. And the guys are like, if you think it's 1,000, let's kill it. It's okay. And so as soon as I heard an okay, I had the leader in one hand. I picked up the gaff. We had them hanging off each cleat. And I pick up the gaff with one foot and put it in my hand, and reach out and sunk the first gaff. And then the captain came down, grabbed the other gaff, and sunk it in the marlin, and we got it cleated off. And then the hard part was getting it in the boat. We finally get it in the boat, had to cut off its pec fin because the top of the door was fixed. And we go in, and if I'm not mistaken, it's 445 kilos is 1,000 pounds. And we weigh it, and I'm looking at it, and it gets to, I don't remember, but 432 kilos, more or less. And I look back at the fish expecting to see the bill on the ground, and the whole fish was in the air. And my heart kind of sunk a little, and it ended up being 963 pounds.
Oh.
It had a 12-foot short length from the lower jaw to the fork of the tail. And had a 6-foot girth around its shoulders, but she had already dumped all her roe, so her belly and the back by her tail were thin. And that's it. It's the biggest one I've ever weighed.
That's a nice one.
Yep.
That's a nice one, but you missed it by that much.
So no granders, and I've been on some boats. We've caught some that, were probably 1,000, couple in Brazil, but we always call them 900 plus. So not a grander unless you weigh it.
That's my firm belief. Even when we're giant tuna fishing, We get a couple of them that are really, really big, and I don't, unless you weigh it, you just can't say it.
Yeah, yeah. Even the guys in Australia, which I would believe guys in Hawaii and Australia could guesstimate the weight of a marlin better than anywhere else because they've killed the most. Even when we just let a 1,000-pounder go. 1,100. Good for them for not that they've been around long enough that they don't mind releasing some granders, and that's great for conservation because those are the big breeders. But I don't think you can. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, you can't really call it 1,100 if you didn't kill it. and those guys have my respect more than anybody. I mean, I don't doubt that they're estimates, but I don't think I could say it without it being on a scale.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying it. I definitely do. So,
yeah.
Anyway, buddy, well, I really appreciate your time today, and it's nice to catch up. And I know your dog's in there somewhere, and he's pretty quiet.
Yeah, she's chewing on something probably that she's not supposed to.
That's what dogs do. That's what dogs do. Well, thank you so much for sharing your world record story with us, and also your big giant black marlin story. And I'm glad I got to pick on you about holding that damn rod in your hand. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about. That might have been my chance.
Yeah. We had a couple big ones in St. Thomas, too.
I think, if I remember correctly, I think we had 2 that we called over 9.
Yeah.
In St. Thomas. Then we had that big one in Panama. I remember a couple of 850s. The one, Tristan's first blue marlin, we called that 850.
Yeah.
And that was a long, skinny fish. It was a long, skinny fish. So I remember that one. I also remember the one where Eddie wanted to catch a fish, and he was going to run the boat, and, oh, there's your dog. And as he comes running down the ladder, the root of that blue marlin comes out because Eddie wanted to try to catch it on a spinning rod. It's like, no, don't throw the spinner. Don't throw the spinner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stories like that.
Oh, yes.
So, well, I can't thank you enough for joining us and telling your stories, and I'm sure we'll probably get you on here again because you probably got a whole bunch more. And now you got 3 kids teaching them all how to fish because I see all the pictures.
Oh, yes. Yep. It's especially the little one, Bailey, at 4. She loves fishing. But fishing with my parents, they call them little rascals. So she's like, we're going to go get some little rascals today. And that could be anything from a snapper or puffer to sunfish and bass. So she has a good time with them.
She calls all the fish little rascals.
The little rascals, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, at least you get them all fishing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, fresh air and keeps them out of trouble. I think that's what helped me.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like I said, I spent 9.5 years around you. You still have found a way to find trouble. Well, buddy, thank you so much, and we will definitely talk to you soon.
You got it, yes, sir.
All right, check you later.
You got it. See ya.